And speaking of starting our day, Timothy, you want to kick us off? What's going on, buddy?
Well, I started my day very early today because it was a really. This is one of the biggest ones. I keep saying this lately. This is the summer of Mars. We're it's 2020. We are in a Mars transfer window right now for about 2 months, basically from the middle of middle of June through the middle of August is the Mars transfer window. So that's why we've seen tons of launches. This is the third out of 3 that launched to Mars today. This was NASA's Perseverance rover launching on top of an Atlas V rocket. Here, I'm going to show you guys some footage. This is actually from my stream this morning, and I'm happy to announce that honestly, I'm going to mute this, but honestly, instead of muting it, I backed it up. Okay, so check this out. We actually had on-screen telemetry. These are our numbers.
You're like you, Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut numbers, not...
Yes, us. So me, Andrew, my producer, and FlightClub.io made it so we have telemetry for the rocket. And this is something that not even NASA had on screen or ULA. So,
how did you do that?
This is so what they did. So Declan Murphy runs Flight Club, and I think we've kind of talked about it on the show. But it's like this website that you can see trajectories of vehicles, and it's a really high end, basically simulator, and it just kind of gives you a good sense of all the data. But he actually has like the trajectories down within really, really accurate. Exactly as it's going to be. So it's pre-programmed. So assuming that everything's good and there's no anomalies, of course, then our telemetry will be exactly good and no anomalies. And you can bet on that with a rocket like this, with the Atlas V, which has been 100% reliable. Our numbers were bang on. We were like literally within like a kilometer and totally bang on until we did have a problem. We were only tracking by accident. Andrew, or my producer, put in just the first stage telemetry. So at stage separation, all of a sudden it was slowing down and falling back to Earth, and people were freaking out.
No.
And they're like, no. Everything's great here. This is
whoops.
We have a pre-programmed thing, and so that was kind of an oops. We had a few little oopsies, but we tried something new. So I actually had to record here in the studio, reacting to it, and send him both of my feeds so he could still mix it separately. And then he was adding all the overlays, you see on the left, there's a timeline and everything. All of that was done by Andrew. He's just a freaking genius. I don't know how people do this kind of stuff.
Look at you guys.
So we're working on constantly trying to up our game, and I think we're getting close. But not enough about me. This mission was incredible. This is, of course, the follow-up to the Curiosity rover, which Curiosity took off in 2011. We talked about it last week, I think, a little bit. And Perseverance is the follow-up, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. It rode on the exact same variant of Atlas V, the 541, meaning it has a 5-meter fairing, 4 solid rocket boosters, and a single RL-10 engine on the upper stage. And it headed to Mars just bang on. It'll land on Mars on February 18th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. That's how exact rocket science is. Isn't that insane? They actually know like exactly when it will touch down.
How
it is insane.
Okay, so how often is this window open for us to launch things to Mars?
Every 26 months.
Okay, right. Because I knew it wasn't every year. It was like...
Yep, it's just over every 2 years. So the next opportunity will be August 2022.
And will Starship be going?
I'm no Elon Musk likes to think Starship will be going. I mean... Who knows? Hail Mary, like it could happen. I'm not going to say it won't. I would be shocked. Like if I were betting and someone said, I'll bet you, how's that betting? I don't understand.
100 push-ups. I'll bet you $1 for every meter per second over 1,000 it goes.
No, how's that work? Like in betting, like if it's like 10 to 1 or whatever, is that like,
odds?
I would put
those are called odds.
Well, I know the odds, but like, how does that work? Do I put $10 on a table, and then if I'm right, I get $100 or $100, or
I love Tired Tim because we can just play with his brain right now. It's like a little pile of mush.
You guys put neural link in my brain, and I'm.
You need more caffeine.
How does that work? Tell me.
It 10-1. It pays if a bet pays out 10-1, then you get 10x your bet. If
But
you
what
win.
if you're on the safe side of that? What if you're the one that's the 1 in 10? Like it's like 9. Like if it's 90%.
No. If you lose the bet, you just lose the bet.
$10.
$10. But if you're playing against the house, you don't do odds when you just bet a friend. You just say, "I'll bet you $100," and it's a 1-to-1 bet.
Well, I'm betting
10 to
the
1.
house. I don't know. We'll get this
Today
for you.
on Gambling 101.
Right.
Yeah.
Gambling is rocket science.
Oh, by the way, here's where our telemetry went wrong because all of a sudden the meters per second were going down, even though the rocket engine is firing. But oh well, so people are freaking out. Like you can't see the exhaust because the upper stage engine of the Atlas V is liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen. So for them, it looked like it's slowing down, and really that's just the booster's telemetry. So it took us a while to realize, but it was firing and going well, and yeah. So anyway, it was a gorgeous launch. And yeah, so Perseverance is on its way to Mars.
And then how long does it take to get there? A couple months?
It takes 0 minutes according to the video I accidentally just played. So it'll get there February 18th. So what is that from right now?
Okay.
That's like 7 months.
Oh wow, it's longer than I thought. Yeah.
Yep. And then on February 18th, we will see this happen. Basically, a really it'll enter Mars's atmosphere, and it'll do the same exact landing sequence again as Curiosity because it's the sibling rover to Curiosity. So it's using that same sky crane maneuver. Did we talk about this last week or not?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
No,
So did they
week.
get this from Area 51 or did we make this?
Let's see. This is obviously from Area 51.
Yeah.
No, what
of
we're looking
course.
at here is it basically has an aero shell and a heat shield, and then they pull a parachute, and the parachute, it can't slow down something. The atmosphere is so thin, even a huge parachute just cannot slow down something enough. So they do have to use rocket power, and then it drops out of the back shell and free falls for a little bit. And it's sitting in like underneath this. They call it the sky crane. And look at that. So it ends up. Yeah, how wild is that?
Yeah, it's nuts.
So you have like a little. So for people just listening here, it's called a sky crane, I guess, but it looks like a little flying ship that then lowers down the actual rover via wires.
Right.
And then it takes off. Where does it go?
So then it self-destructs. The sky crane
self-destructs.
self-destructs. Yeah, so it flies away to not accidentally get anywhere near Curiosity. Yep. So,
Well, all that element 115 in there, we probably should just get it back here to Earth.
So it's and I did a little bit on like how does that make any more sense than just putting like landing gear on the thrusters and then having a ramp on top and having like Curiosity just drive off the ramp like a normal thing instead of like this like dangly thing. It just seems like it's a mess. But yeah, it's come to find out this is actually, believe it or not, the simplest and lightest solution. It's just this way, they don't have to softly land. They can kind of just hover roughly above and lower the thing. And as soon as the Curiosity rover touches the ground, it signals the lines to cut and the sky crane to fly away. That way you're not firing your rocket engines right next to the ground. You're not. There's a lot of really interesting things.
What if one of those giant windstorms like in The Martian comes by?
I love your questions. Well, as
it really wouldn't do much because of the low atmospheric pressure.
Exactly.
Tell me more.
A 40 kilometer, like there's only 1% atmosphere on Mars, so about a 40 kilometer an hour wind would be about a 0.4 kilometer an hour wind as far as atmospheric pressure.
And then gravity is also less, right? What is it?
Gravity is
1/6
also less.
or 1/3?
1/3, I believe.
Yep.
1/3.
Yep, 38%.
So wouldn't that make landing on kind of like an airbag be easier than trying to do it here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Well, they've done that before.
Yeah.
On Mars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Spirit and Opportunity, is that?
Yep.
I think
Spirit,
there was the other one. There was another one too.
Spirit, Opportunity. Yeah, there was another one or two even. That was a pretty common, the airbag idea, like Spirit and Opportunity.
What was brilliant
really
about that to
cool.
me was that they had it inside of that sort of pyramidal, is that a term?
Yeah.
Shell, so that when it opened, no matter how it opened, it would open correctly so that it could like right away.
Yep.
So even if it landed upside down, when it opened up, it would right itself.
Yeah, it was a slick system. But that's only good. Basically, things scale up. So the airbag could only, it's basically the parachute can only scrub off like, 99%. And then that last 1% of velocity is just too hard to scrub off of the parachute. So airbags made sense for certain rovers. But at a certain point, it just gets so big and ridiculous when you have like, this vehicle's over a metric ton. It's 1,050 kilograms. So about 2,400 pounds or so. It's a big, big rover. And
that's why whenever I see it dangling from that one or two strings, I'm just like,
Yeah.
that seems crazy.
Yeah,
I know the gravity is different and everything, but still.
Well, I was
you're
going to say,
absolutely right.
2,400 pounds and 1/3 gravity, though.
I mean, yeah, that's about 800 pounds of thrust, but it does just seem plain ludicrous.
Ooh.
Bonkers.
He said the word. He said the word. But yeah, that it was still just really, really cool to see this launch be completely successful and just absolutely bullseye, as we would expect with the ULA. That's people were commenting all the time, like, couldn't they launch this on a Falcon Heavy or a Falcon 9? This probably could have been done about on an expendable Falcon 9, but when they made this mission and like committed to it, that was when the Falcon 9 had probably only flown like 10 times. It wasn't nearly flight proven enough to even be considered. Nowadays, if they were to do a flight, this is again about $1 billion rover. Nowadays, they maybe would consider a Falcon 9 if it was capable, but I bet they wouldn't even consider a Falcon Heavy yet because it's just not that well proven. It hasn't. It's only flown 3 times. Like that's not that's not enough time to see its full track record when you're dealing with $1 billion rover.
You can't just go to IKEA and get a new one, I assume.
No. And that's why ULA makes the big bucks, frankly, is because they deliver. Period. If you want to make sure it's going to get there, yeah, ULA has a phenomenal track record, so that's what you're paying for.
Was that FedEx the whole like if it absolutely 100% has to get there on time?
Call ULA.
Somebody had that slogan a while back.
Oh, yeah.
I saw how that worked out for Tom Hanks. Not so good. Not so good.
On which movie?
He had a volleyball to keep him company. It's not so bad.
Castaway.
Castaway? He's a FedEx guy? Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that's what he was doing, right? He was flying there to see, and then the plane, anyways.
And at the end, he like delivered that package that he had held on to the whole time to somebody out in Kansas or whatever.
It's been a while. It's been a while for me, guys.
No, what you said a minute ago, I get a little, I'll just confess, a little annoyed when no matter what the launch is, if it's not on a SpaceX Falcon 9, people are like, why don't they do it on a Falcon 9? It's like, there's a lot of other options.
Yeah.
The Falcon 9 is not the one and only path to get anywhere. And these other options, like ULA doesn't get enough credit. They do awesome stuff.
And I think people are underestimating how inexpensive and competitive Vulcan will be. I think Vulcan is going to probably end up being about half the cost of an Atlas V. And for, again, even if it's 2 or 3 times more expensive than a Falcon Heavy or Falcon 9, or a comparable SpaceX rocket, if it's performing and has that legacy of like, no, we will get your multi-$100 million satellite in space on time, blah, blah, blah. Like people are going to spend that money, Yeah. So this was perfect. They did have, this was pushed back from about the 15th. So it got pushed back about 2 weeks. They were hoping to, I think, originally go like July 15th, if I remember right, was the original, or 17th was the original. So it pushed back about 2 weeks. And that actually was an issue with the rocket. So ironically, the schedule didn't quite hold. But at the same time, once they really did nail in a new date, they nailed it right at the beginning of the window. Absolutely no hint of a scrub or anything else after that. So and also maybe that scrub was because they're just really, really, really wanting this to go absolutely flawlessly too. So
now, because they've done it so often and this thing's so proven, do they still have to do static fires and those kind of things for like that actual rocket?
So ULA doesn't do static fires. They'll do wet dress rehearsals where they fuel the rocket up and then drain it of its fuel and just to make sure everything's good to go. But they won't light the engines, especially like with the Delta IV Heavy. That's the rocket that because it's hydrogen and hydrogen's so light, so undense, it leaks out of everything. And so as soon as it first initially begins running the pumps and lighting the engines, there's a whole cloud of hydrogen that they intentionally light. So it lights itself on fire. It's like the most...
The whole thing goes up in flames.
Yes. And so sometimes there has been, I think there's a Delta IV Heavy a couple years ago that committed and actually turned on its engines and then shut down before it left the pad. So it did a static fire. I don't think it was intentional. So then it ended up sitting on the pad with just huge scorch marks all the way up it.
Emphasis on fire.
Yeah. Yes. Very much static fire.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this clip from our show. If that's just not enough for you and you want to watch the full episode, you can go to olfpod.com/YT.
And if you want more from us, you can consider becoming a Patreon member. You'll get early access to episodes. You can join our awesome community. You can actually watch us record live and get your name in the credits by going to olfpod.com/Patreon.
So thanks everyone for watching. Check back every Friday for new clips here and new episodes on the main channel.
Thanks, everybody.